Good morning, everyone. For our discussion for today, we will talk about doing your initial review of related literature. I hope all of you are doing good and that you're all safe today. So, we will continue on our discussion despite um, the suspension of classes. So, I do hope that you'll be able to view our discussion for today. Let me just share. Um, the discussion for today. So we will be talking about how you're going to be able to search for your research literature, or this is the review of related literature. Normally, in the thesis or research the research work, this would be chapter 2. Now, our discussion will be able to introduce you to the actual process of doing your initial search. Although we have done a preliminary discussion on doing your literature review, so hopefully this will add up to the prior knowledge that you have already. Going back to this description, you will be collecting and you will have to organize your research literature for the review of related literature or RRL section of your study. So we will discuss the relevance of doing your review of related literature, the step-by-step methods to find credible sources from journal articles, thesis dissertation papers, or uh, what we call the um, the primary references. Because in the primary references, you will be able to get really a very good source of information from an actual research with an actual literature, methodology. You will have conclusion recommendations of the study. And then before reminders also before starting your literature search, the systematic approaches to organizing the studies thematically, and we'll also talk about a little bit about the APA style 7th edition, which you need badly when you do your citations and when you write your RRL. And even in doing so with your introduction, your background, your statement of the problem, and the other parts of your paper. So we will also talk about, again, the principle of recency in research, and we'll be able to provide you with practical review of related literature answer grid, which you will need to be able to do later on with all of your journal articles. You have to translate them into the RRL answer grade for synthesizing your reviewed studies. So we have around 8 learning outcomes. So we will define what the literature review is in research, the relevance of conducting your literature review, identifying the effective steps to search for the relevant literature, apply reminders before starting the literature search. You have to organize the relevant studies in both the systematic and the thematic ways, and utilize your review of related literature answer grid for synthesis, and apply your APA style on the 7th edition in citing references correctly, and hopefully be able to understand the principle of recency and its importance in research. Now, the very first question you'd always ask, what is this literature review in research is all about? Now, a literature review is important. It's critical summary and synthesis of existing studies related to your research topic. So it will be able to highlight what has been done, what we call this one, what are the gaps remain, and uh, how your study connects with what we call the existing knowledge. So and so this is not just what we call a list of the summaries, but also a thoughtful integration of the findings to show how the progress of knowledge is seen in your research area. I think I made mention earlier on being able to um, uh, being able to see the gaps or the research gaps in the literature. Now, research gap class, this is very important. This is research gap is something missing, or this is not fully explored in existing research. Now, the way to understand a research gap is crucial in your literature review because when we talk about the research gap, number one, these are unanswered questions. So researchers have not answered certain questions yet. For example, we know exercise helps adults sleep better, but what about teenagers? So number two, also the missing information. That's very important in research gap. There's not enough data or detail on a topic. Example, there are studies on diabetes in adults, but very few on how it affects children in different countries. Number three, about research gap is the old or outdated research. So past studies must not apply today due to new technology or even some social changes. Example, a study from 2000 on social media use is outdated because the platforms have changed a lot. Number four of what research gap is all about, the contradicting results. Now, studies show different or opposing findings, and no one knows which is right. So, example, one study says coffee is good for your heart health, and another says it's bad. So, we need more research to clarify it. And of course, when you talk about research gap, we talk about uh, the neglected population or the context. So research ignores certain groups or probably situations. So examples, you have mental health studies often focus on adults. But what about in rural teens? So uh, those are the very important um, information about ways of easily understanding what the research gap is all about. Okay, and now let's talk about the relevance of doing your literature review for research. This will act as a foundation of your knowledge. So it provides a background of what has already been studied, avoiding duplication. You have contextualization. This helps place your research within the broader scholarly conversation. And it will identify gaps, which I made mention earlier. So it helps place your research within the broader scholarly conversation. The third is the identification of gaps. So it reveals areas that are underexplored, which your study can address. Number four, the methodological insights. So it shows what designs, instruments, or approaches of work in related research. And then, of course, you have the methodological insights. So it shows what the designs or instruments or approaches of work in related research. And of course, for credibility and rigor. So you're doing RRL. This is to for a well-organized review strengths and validity of your study by showing your understanding of the field. Now, the more important question now is how do you look for relevant literature? I think I remember we've been able to discuss this, but we will be able to talk about it again. Number one, you have to clarify your keywords. You don't have to put everything like your entire research title, but pwede naman yon. But normally, you can just clarify your keywords. Break down your topic into specific search terms. Example, for online learning and student motivation. So the keywords could be online classes, e-learning, motivation, or let's say higher education. The second step is use academic databases like the ones that you're using already, the Google Scholar, the JSTOR, or the JSTOR, the ERIC. Scopus or ResearchGate, example typing student motivation in e-learning 2020 to 2024, for example, in your Google Scholar. Now, the third is you have to review abstract first. So quickly scan to see if a study fits your topic. You have to filter by recency, last 5 years. You have to prioritize update sources. You will talk about what this recency is all about again. Download and save full text articles, store them systematically, for example, in the Google Drives, or let's say in your flash drives or your USB, or in your computer or laptops. Next, you have to take notes immediately, summarize the key points instead of reading passively. Then you have to record the references details. Another word for references would be bibliographic details or references as we normally call it in research, to include the author, year, and source of later citation. Now, before doing your literature, these are some of the reminders. Your topic in the title must already be approved by your research advisor, otherwise, this will be useless. Ensure your introduction, statement of problem, research questions, and background of the study are complete or are polished already. Save all articles in the Google Drive or in other storage, online storage, or in your flash or USB for easy retrieval. Collect at least 20 or more relevant literature for credibility. And so this will be your answer grid, which you are going to be able to fill up and be able to place all your journal articles that you will be able to retrieve. This is another activity. You'll have to put the research title, the author, place, date, research design, variables or categories, synthesis recommendation, the gaps, and the relevant points. And then now we talk about the principle of recency in research. Now, this principle of recency again means giving priority to the most updated studies in your literature review. So using the past 5 years ensures that your RRL reflects current knowledge, the trends, and technology. So older studies may still be cited for foundational theories. Still, you can still include that. But updated sources make your work more credible and relevant. So in our case, that would be 2021 and above. So what's an APA style? 7th edition, which is very important when you do your citations and when you already write your paper. Okay, so now what is the American Psychological Association style or the 7th edition? Um, uh, this is the most recent standard for writing, citing, and referencing academic work, but there could be other style. But for St. Patrick's School, Quezon City, we will use the APA style 7th edition. Other schools would be doing the Chicago style, the MLA style, but again, we will be using the APA style. So this would ensures conformity, professionalism, and the ethical use of sources. Now, the relevance of the APA style in the 7th edition would be credibility, the proper citation, which would avoid plagiarism, consistency, it's standardized formatting across research works, and accessibility. Readers can easily trace and verify cited studies. Now, the big question now is how do we do APA style citation in the 7th edition? This will be able to guide you, and we will have another topic on APA style to further clarify. Number one, you cite the author and the year in the in-text citations that you do. So in APA, all sources used in your paper must be acknowledged by citing the author's last name and the year of publication. So this provides credit to the original author and avoids plagiarism. Example, Santos 2021, or according to Cruz 2022, research literacy is essential. Studies show higher engagement in digital learning, Garcia and Lee in 2023, or Miller et al., meaning there would be authors, more than two authors, emphasize the motivation drives learning outcomes. Number two, use page numbers for direct quotations. When directly quoting, APA requires adding the page number. This shows exactly where the quote came from. So student engagement is crucial in online classes. Santos, 2021, page 45. Great. Garcia and Lee, 2023, page 11, highlighted the motivation is dynamic in e-learning. And the other examples that you can see. Number three, you can format the reference list alphabetically. At the end of your paper, all sources must appear in a reference list arranged alphabetically by the author's surname, and this ensures easy tracing of citations. Now, there should be a hanging indent when you have, for example, the second line in your citation. In this case, there was no hanging indent, but you can put a hanging indent. Okay. And then we follow sentence case for titles for articles and books. So in the APA 7 edition, only the first word of the title, the first word after a colon, and the proper nouns are capitalized. The journal articles, however, are written in title case and italics. Examples. Okay, second example is Santos M, 2021, Digital Tools and Student Motivation Academic Press. And you'll be able to see the other examples with number 4. Number 5, you italicize the books, journals, and the volume. Formatting requires italicizing the books, the titles, journals, names, and volume, journals, and this helps distinguish between different elements of a citation. And then you can include the DOI or the URL for online sources. Whenever possible, include the digital object identifier or a stable URL. DOIs are preferred since they provide a permanent link to the article. Now use proper citation for multiple authors. Okay, the ones I told you earlier, you use et al. Okay, et al. And then reference edited books and the book chapters correctly. If citing an edited book, mention the editors. If citing a chapter, list the author of the chapter, followed by the editor, book title, and the page range. When applying formatting standards in your paper, the APA requires the New Times Roman 12, the size is 12, size is 12, okay? Double spacing, 1-inch margins, and hanging indent for the references, the title pages, running heads, and indented paragraph must follow the APA guidelines. So we will talk about this thoroughly later on. Okay. And then use consistent citation style throughout. Consistency builds professionalism. To every cited in text must appear in the references, and the format must remain uniform. Okay, so I think these are the references. These are just the basic in doing APA style. We will have another discussion on doing your APA, and I do hope that this will be able to help you in crafting your review of related literature. Thank you very much for listening. Bye, everyone.